Heroes become immortalized through storytelling alone, but in the world of comics, that's not the only kind of immortality that exists. Yara Flor is destined to become the new Wonder Woman. At least that is what Future State would have us believe. For now though, in the Prime Earth continuity, she is just coming into her own and being introduced to us as a hero, figuring out as well what that means for her as our Wonder Girl. Yara herself, like Wonder Woman before her, is also a demigod. In Future State we learned that while her mother was a mortal woman, her father was a Brazilian river god. Yara is an Amazonian in two ways, being from the Amazon and also being an Amazon of the Amazons. She is not from Themyscira like Diana, but instead from the Amazonian rainforest. We've seen the potential of Yara via her appearance in Future State, but currently she is not at her full power levels just yet, as she doesn't have the same amount of experience as her future self. Like Diana, she is also a skilled combatant and has enhanced strength and speed due to her heritage. Number 9. Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill isn't someone you'd initially think of when you think of Immortal, but he is down with the Immortals of Asgard, and so I think we can include him too. Also add in the fact that he is a cyborg, and you have a Beta Ray Bill that just won't quit, in most cases at least. In his Thor form, Beta Ray Bill becomes one of the toughest heroes around, not only known for his strength but also his durability. He is immune to disease and sickness and becomes pretty much immortal in that form. Being at the level of strength and capability when it comes to his power levels also makes him one of the most powerful heroes in the Marvel Universe, even though he might not be the one that you think of first. Still, I'm really happy I put Beta Ray Bill on this list because I feel like we never talk about him enough. Poor Bill. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list, I have a lot more immortal, powerful heroes that I want to tell you about. So be sure to let us know you are loving it by giving this video a thumbs up. And shout out in the comments, be like part 2, part 2. Maybe we'll do a part 2. Number 8. Orion. Orion is one of the new gods and also the son of Darkseid, but just because his dad is one of the greatest villains of all time when it comes to the DC universe doesn't mean that he can't be a hero, which is ultimately what Orion is, preferring to fight on the side of good. Although this doesn't mean that he never has conflicts with other superheroes in the DC universe, because that does happen from time to time, with Orion arguing that his approach to heroism in certain cases is superior. Orion is an amazingly skilled fighter and leader who is known for his super strength, durability, and stamina. He also is immortal like his father, and because Darkseid has also been established as a constant in the DC universe, therefore invulnerable from ever being permanently defeated, we can discern that Orion likely has a similar thing going on, being descended from Darkseid as he is. Number 7. Icarus. I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention one Eternal on this list. Eternals are known for their immortality. I mean, it's kinda in the name. Eternal. We call them eternal because they are. They have lived on Earth for 1 million years at this point or more, Icarus included. They are beings who were created by the Celestials, but whose purpose remained a great mystery in the comics for a long time. Initially though, it seemed that the Celestials had created them to kind of be Earth's heroes, but also because they kind of enjoyed messing with species on other worlds, which was exactly what they were doing with humanity when they created both the Eternals and their initial sworn enemies, the Deviants. Icarus, like himself, is often thought of as being the Superman equivalent of the group. Icarus is well known for his durability, strength, flight, and energy manipulation and energy beams, including heat vision as a form of. Icarus is strong enough to take on Thanos one-on-one and also possesses the ability to heal himself. Like other Eternals, he also has the capability to teleport, though he actually prefers not to do that, and he possesses low-level psionic abilities that allow him to communicate telepathically, as well as more advanced telekinetic abilities. Number 6. Supergirl. Like her cousin Kal-El, Supergirl is often perceived as being basically immortal. In Future State, we saw an alternate future where Kara left Earth and lived well into the future. At the end of her Future State limited series, Kara Zor-El Superwoman, Supergirl did inevitably die, but we don't really know what from. It could have eventually been that she succumbed to old age after living well into the future and beyond, or it could be that she died protecting the Eternal Garden and community there that she created and had fostered. I would err on the side of the latter just because of how immortal Kara already seemed in that series. And that's not the only alternate reality where we've seen Kryptonians living well into the future, virtually untouched by age. There have been countless other realities, including that of DC 1 million, where we've seen heroes like Superman live well beyond normal years, becoming basically a sun-powered god. So if this is true for Clark based on his physiology, it must also be a possibility for Kara as well. Number 5. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is still a woman that can be killed, but she has also been known as a demigod in the comics before, with one origin for her making her the daughter of Hippolyta, the Queen of Amazons, and Zeus, a god of Olympus. Really, the god of Olympus. More recently, during the events of Dark Knight's death metal, Diana was also raised up to become an omnipotent god amidst the stars, transcended into an otherworldly being and leaving our earthly plane behind, at least for a while. Diana would get a glimpse into a potential future, giving us the future state line, world, and event. Wonder Woman is known for being one of the fiercest and strongest fighters amongst the Amazons and in the world of DC besides. Number 4. Circe. Probably one of the most powerful Eternals around, and definitely one of the few with the greatest staying power in the comics, is Circe. So she's not only immortal as an Eternal, but also immortal in terms of her appearance in the comics. Circe is introduced to us as one of the members of the Eternals who most loves humanity in the MCU film Eternals, and the same can be said for her in the comics. There she is also known as one of the most sociable Eternals, who also appreciates a really good party. In fact, when she was tricked into believing she was human, this was kinda what her whole world centered around. She became like all about parties. When it comes to her power levels, Circe is often seen as specializing in the power of transmutation. In the comics, this has never been restricted to non-organic matter either, and also gives Circe the power to heal. As an Eternal, she not only possesses this power, but also has complete control over every molecule of her being, making her quite durable and quite hard to kill. Even when Eternals are killed as well, they're resurrected, meaning they can never really die. Not only that, but Circe can fly, teleport, and has super strength, and is telepathic and telekinetic. She's really got a lot of powers. Like most Eternals. That is something that I feel like we didn't really see in the movie, but in the comics, they're all pretty OP. Number 3. Hulk. Hulk is definitely one of the most powerful heroes around in Marvel Comics. Often he is well known for his massive amount of strength and ability to smash or destroy just about anything he sets his mind to wrecking. Lately, however, we saw a deep dive into the character of the Hulk and Bruce Banner, who are also often described as being two separate beings kind of sharing one existence. In Immortal Hulk, we also learn not only that Hulk is extremely complex, but also that he's, well, you may have guessed it, immortal. Granted, this very revelation was something pulled from his original origin, where it was initially explained that at night the Hulk would basically take over, and because of this, whenever night fell, if Bruce Banner had been killed, then Hulk would be resurrected, bringing Bruce back with him. If you are a Hulk fan and you haven't yet read Immortal Hulk, by the way, it's definitely a must read, so go do that. And you'll see what I'm talking about with all this immortal stuff. If you didn't already know, because I feel like, you know, if you've been a Hulk fan for a long time, then you probably were like, I mean, it makes sense. Number 2. Jean Grey. Jean has died a lot, and I mean a lot, and yet she always comes back. If that isn't immortality, I do not know what is. Even when she has been dead for years, she still returned. A big part of what makes her so indestructible is how much the Phoenix Force loves her and often sees her as its preferred host. I guess except for the whole Phoenix tournament thing, that really threw my whole understanding of the Jean-Phoenix connection for a loop. As a superhero, Jean is one of the most powerful around, but often chooses to show restraint when it comes to her abilities unless she is really needed to set things right. She's just kinda too OP as well. She is an Omega level telepath and an extremely powerful telekinetic. Number 1. Superman. One of the most immortal of the immortals out there, and one of the most powerful, is Superman, who has been established as immortal as long as he's under a yellow sun. Granted, his immortality is a little bit conditional, but when it comes to being a powerhouse, Superman is undisputedly one of the best and most established in comics today. I mean, they kinda had to nail down his powers and give him weaknesses to make his struggles more grounded. That's how unstoppable he initially was, back when his superpowers were basically whatever he needed them to be in order to save the day and solve problems. Superman has also died before, but has pretty much always come back, and following the death of Superman, we also learned that due to Kryptonian technology, even this publicized and sensationalized death would most definitely not be a permanent thing. A very powerful factor that Superman also possesses when it comes to his immortality is how popular he is, evidently. So it'd be really hard to kill Superman because we'd all be like, no! No one would accept it. We'd all be like just tearing our hair out and beating our chest, be like, unacceptable.
Number 10. Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is one powerful dude, a lot more powerful than some people give him credit for. His magic as Sorcerer Supreme is hard to stop, able to use it offensively, defensively, or in any creative way he may imagine. His sheer power alone makes him difficult to kill. However, after completing the trial against death, Strange was gifted with immortality and the Ankh of enduring life, which would appear in dire situations. While this agelessness doesn't stop him from being killed, it does stop him from weakening with age, and a full-strength Strange has so many tricks up his sleeve that killing him takes an awful lot. Number 9. Brainiac 5. Brainiac 5 has 12th level intellect, and is one of, if not the smartest being in the universe, which in itself is pretty darn impressive. He's so intelligent and quick thinking that it'd be pretty much impossible to outsmart him. But if you come at him with firepower, you'll have your work cut out for you, since he has a number of impressive inventions that can help defend him. His force field is damn near impenetrable. He's built time-manipulating devices, the anti-bomb that absorbs all energy, and has defeated incredibly powerful beings like Sun Eater and Time Trapper. If you can imagine it, he can probably build it, and this plethora of powerful technologies keeps him pretty safe. Number 8. Wonder Man, or should I say Marvel's Ionic Superman. After Simon Williams underwent Baron Zemo's ionic ray treatment, he gained a number of incredible powers, namely pretty much the same powers as Superman, but a bit worse. Flight, strength, speed, durability, hearing, vision, etc. With one twist, his body composition was changed somewhat due to the ionic rays, making him a being of ion rather than flesh and blood. He can be real tough to kill with both a high durability and ionic regeneration, which has brought him back from death several times. He's tough to kill and tough to keep dead, so he's going on the list. And if Wonder Man is going on this list, then guess who else ought to be? Number 7. Rogue. Seeing as Rogue currently has many of Wonder Man's powers, even though he's been released from her body, it'd be a little silly to leave her off this list. Rogue has the same advantages as Wonder Man in this respect, namely the durability and immortality, as well as her own ability to steal the powers of others. While she seems to have lost a certain amount of her control over her power-stealing ability, it remains a strong weapon in her arsenal. The durability, speed, and flight from Wonder Man would also let her get to her opponent and touch them, making her even better and even tougher to kill. Number 6. Zeus and Odin. I feel like making two separate points for the two Allfathers would be kind of repetitive, so I'll throw them together. While one could argue over which of these two is more powerful, it's safe to say that they would both be incredibly difficult to kill. Super strong, insane durability, huge regeneration, not to mention that they both have some form of immortality. The case is pretty strong. In terms of Marvel vs DC, I'll go with the Marvel version of these dudes, not because I'm a Marvel fanboy, settle down out there, just because their feats are much more clear in Marvel, so it's easier to know their power level. Next, number 5. Gwenpool. Now I know there are a lot of Gwenpool haters out there, and that's totally fine, but I like her and I think she fits this video in her own weird way, so there you go. Gwenpool is really unique on this list, as she has no real powers to speak of as far as we know, although recent comics have shown her to be able to physically manipulate the panels and speech bubbles, which could get pretty powerful. However, she manages to avoid death time and time again, even able to jump off a building and survive, due only to the fact that she's a hero and too important to have die. She's able to abuse the rules of comics to her advantage, and particularly her popularity. In this case, the mere fact that she is wildly popular and her comics are still in their infancy makes it highly unlikely that writers would let her die. Some might view this point as a cop-out, but considering her popularity literally stops her from dying in the comics, she'd probably be one of the hardest heroes to kill at the moment. Number 4. The Tick. Now, hear me out. I know the Tick isn't really who you think of when you think of powerful superheroes, but he has one important ability on his side. Drama power.
Destiny's powerful hand has made the bed of my future, and it's up to me to lie in it.
Drama power causes the Tick to become more powerful as a situation becomes more dramatic. Well, you know what would probably be his most dramatic situation? Dying. Now, I hold the belief that if he found himself dying, his drama powers would kick in and we'd see a Tick far more powerful than we'd ever seen him before. And he would be a thing of beauty. Number 3. The Flash. The Flash is something of an enigma. It's darn near impossible to write a believable story where he dies because he's so damn fast. But even if you manage to write a story where he does die, guess what? The dude can just outrun death, as we saw when he ran the pants off of Black Flash. Flash is one of those heroes who doesn't actually have a particular power that keeps him from dying like Deadpool, but his speed power is just so OP that he straight up can't die. And it's kind of annoying. Number 2. Mr. Immortal. Well, this works out awfully well. I just finished writing about this bad boy for another list, but he works far too well to leave him off this one. Mr. Immortal, as his name suggests, is immortal. And while he can die and does it more than pretty much any other character, you just can't keep him dead. After a few failed suicide attempts, Craig Hollis found that he just couldn't stay dead and became Mr. Immortal. He fights, dies, comes back, gets really angry, calms down, and goes back to fighting. It's even prophesized that he will be the last human on Earth due to this power. So yeah, he's pretty hard to kill. Number 1. Plastic Man. Plastic Man may look ridiculous, largely because of his deep V, but just because he's a comic relief doesn't mean he's a wimp. Introduced in Police Comics #1 way back in 1941, he's one of the longest running superheroes out there. And unlike his contemporaries, the dude has managed to avoid being killed off all these years. This is largely due to the fact that he's frickin' immortal, since his whole body was changed to a rubber-like substance, including his brain. Really, anyone who's survived for 3,000 years with all his molecules separated at the bottom of the ocean is gonna be a little on the tough side to kill.
In at number 10 is the Joker. A combination of resilience, obsession, and pure insanity, the Joker has evaded death on numerous occasions, much to the Bat family's disdain. And while over the years there have been some instances in which he's kicked the can, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns specifically, the majority of the time Batman's unwillingness to kill the Clown Prince of Crime has made for some of the most enjoyable conflict in comic book history. And at number 9 is Vandal Savage. Being immortal isn't easy, especially when you're using your immortality to try to plot the downfall of humankind. Vandal Savage was the leader of the Cro-Magnon blood tribe back in the days of cavemen. He came into contact with a radioactive meteorite, which gave him superhuman enhancements and immortality. Ever since, he's been screwing around with the events in history, all while trying to establish himself as the ruler of Earth. And at number 8 is Doomsday. When we were first introduced to Doomsday, he was beating the crap out of Superman, and ended up killing him, along with seemingly dying himself, which wasn't the case, but that rant is for another video. His body was attached to an asteroid and flung into space by a Superman imposter afterwards, later to be revealed that, despite being tied to the asteroid and being in space, he was in fact alive. Known as the Destroyer, he's got regeneration abilities, capable of reactive adaptation, and is immortal, which I guess is what you get when you use cruel evolution experiments on a baby and then clone it, ultimately trying to forge a more invulnerable superior clone of it as a means of accelerated natural evolution. Fun stuff. Up next, number 7 is Ra's al Ghul. One of the biggest supervillains in the DC universe, Ra's is a criminal mastermind who strives to create a world with a perfect environmental balance, by ridding it of most of humanity, that is. He's lived for centuries due to his Lazarus pits, which are filled with rejuvenating chemicals capable of restoring life back into the dead. He's also been killed before and then brought back, despite being cremated, all by transferring his consciousness into the body of another. And then the New 52 happened and everything was reset, so yay. Up next, number 6 is Silver Surfer. Galactus' herald, Silver Surfer has been given a tiny portion of Galactus' power cosmic, and for a long while he's searched the cosmos looking for planets for Galactus to devour. Eventually he ends up on Earth and rediscovers his humanity, causing Galactus to exile him. He's capable of quite a lot, including turning matter into energy, and the ability to absorb and manipulate the universe's ambient energy. He can see through time, and has a nearly impervious body. And at number 5 is Imperiex Prime. With the goal of destroying imperfect parts of the universe and to create new perfect ones, Imperiex Prime is a galactic being, who takes the form of pure energy contained inside of a humanoid set of armor. That is massive. He's been on this crusade since the dawn of time, and is almost impossible to beat, causing the forces of both good and evil on Earth to team up to save their planet. They managed to kill him with a temporal displacement weapon, thanks to Lex Luthor, sending him and Brainiac back to the Big Bang, after a slew of casualties, that is, 8 million of which were on Earth. Up next, number 4 is Parallax. Parallax is an entity made up entirely of fear, on which it feeds. It caused entire civilizations to destroy themselves out of paranoia, so as you can imagine, it is a little hard to kill. Parallax is a villain that must be overcome rather than completely eliminated, which is a feat in itself, considering how hard it is to squash fear in the first place. For years, it was imprisoned by the Guardians of the Universe in the Central Power Battery, with the Guardians keeping its true nature a secret in hopes no one would try to free Parallax. And we all know what happened when that did go down. Up next, number 3 is Apocalypse. First appearing in 1986, Apocalypse has always been a terrifying force to be reckoned with, being a Class 5 mutant bent on world domination. He's got godlike abilities, which include self-molecular control, matter manipulation, augmenting or supercharging the powers of other mutants, telekinesis, shapeshifting, accelerated healing, energy manipulation, reality distortion, the ability to transfer his consciousness to another being. Oh, and he's immortal, so there's that. And at number 2 is the First. Jumping into a bit of Buffy the Vampire Slayer here, the First Evil is a malicious entity that predated man and demon alike, and is the personification of evil itself. It's non-corporeal, so it uses extreme psychological manipulation to get what it wants. It's popped up a few times in the show, the biggest occasion being the big bad in the final season, season 7. After the balance between good and evil is altered when Buffy is resurrected in season 6, it tries to overrun this dimension by becoming corporeal. But luckily, Buffy and the Scoobies and all of the potential Slayers manage to defeat it and its army, destroying the Sunnydale Hellmouth in the
process, rendering it powerless. And finally, in our number 1 spot is Galactus. A cosmic entity who consumes planets in order to sustain his life force, Galactus has the power cosmic at his disposal, allowing him total manipulation of energy in order to achieve almost any effect he desires. He does have a weakness though. That hunger for planets is his downfall. If he doesn't consume life force, he'll fade. But that doesn't make his power or invulnerability less immense. Jack Kirby, one of Galactus' co-creators, has stated, I quote, "I had to get something new, and for some reason I went to the Bible, and I came up with Galactus. And there I was in front of this tremendous figure, who I knew very well, because I always felt him, and I certainly couldn't treat him the same way that I would any ordinary mortal. And of course the Silver Surfer is the fallen angel. They were figures that have never been used before in comics. They were above mythic figures, and of course, they were the first gods."
Number 10. Orion. Orion is one of the new gods and also the son of Darkseid. But just because his dad is one of the greatest villains of all time when it comes to the DC universe, doesn't mean that he can't be a hero. Which is ultimately what Orion is, preferring to fight on the side of good. However, even being a hero, that doesn't mean that he never has conflicts with other superheroes in the DC universe, because that does also happen from time to time. With Orion arguing that his approach to heroism in certain cases is superior. Orion is an amazingly skilled fighter who is known for his super strength, durability, and stamina. He also is immortal like his father, and because Darkseid has also been established as a constant in the DC universe, therefore invulnerable from ever being permanently defeated and erased, we can discern that Orion likely has a similar thing going on, being at least somewhat inevitable, kind of by proxy. It's not confirmed, it's a theory, but just go with it. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us you love us by clicking that like. Number 9. Green Lantern. In the Kingdom Come universe of Earth 22, Green Lantern, Alan Scott, actually found a way to integrate his own lantern into his armor, making him even more powerful than before. In the world of Kingdom Come, he looks like a massive green knight. Although he looks terrifying, he's meant to be one of the good guys, and after waiting years for an alien threat that never appears, he joins the Justice League. Alan Scott in this universe also possesses the ability of immortality, among others, although as intimidating as this immortal and immensely powerful version of the hero is, I'd also like to remind you that he still has his weakness to wood in this universe. In fact, if the constructs he creates come into contact with wood, they apparently just are destroyed. Number 8. The Spectre. The Spectre is an often ominous presence who holds so much power that he usually stays on the periphery, not really getting involved in major plot points unless there is a crisis that's so large that it demands he interfere. He is a bringer of justice, and even to this day, there are tons of comics featuring the Spectre where his identity has never been revealed. The Spectre has also been posed as a sort of mantle that can be passed on, almost like a constant role that must always be filled, so sometimes we do know who he is, making the title itself alone immortal in a fashion. Number 7. Shazam. While Billy Batson can and does age in the comics, Shazam does not. Shazam is the superhero form that Billy transforms into whenever he speaks the magical word Shazam. In this form, he gains the powers of the gods, the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the endurance of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the bravery of Achilles, and finally, the speed of Mercury. Being that in this state, Billy is basically a god himself, it would make sense that this form of him is also immortal. Number 6. Phantom Stranger. The Phantom Stranger has a very mysterious background. No one really knows his exact origins, though he is often presented as a neutral party who was caught between the two sides in the war between heaven and hell, and as such was forced to roam the earth alone for all of eternity. He usually only makes an appearance when he is really needed, and is considered to be on the same power level as someone like the Spectre, who is known as an immensely powerful hero and cosmic entity. In terms of his psychic abilities, he has an omnipotent level of knowledge, can fly and teleport, and can sense threats that are often considered undetectable, as well as create illusions. And of course, the Phantom Stranger is also believed to be immortal, having roamed the universe for a millennium. At least that is true as far as the New Earth continuity version of the character goes. The New 52 version of the Phantom Stranger is not as mysterious or seemingly as powerful as his former self, sadly, but is still most likely immortal considering how old he too is believed to be, based on the fact that we are actually given an identity for him. So he's supposed to be, I think, Judas. So I don't know if that's spoilers, but I'm pretty sure that was revealed like years ago, so I don't think it's super spoilery. Number 5, Supergirl. Like her cousin Kal-El, Supergirl is often perceived as being basically immortal. In Future State, we saw an alternate future where Kara left Earth and lived well into the future. And that's not the only alternate reality where we've seen Kryptonians living well into the future virtually untouched by age. There have been countless other realities, including that of DC 1 million, where we've seen heroes like Superman live well beyond normal years, becoming basically a sun-powered god. So if this is true for Clark, based on his physiology, you'd think it would also be a possibility for Kara as well, considering that both of them have about the same Kryptonian physiology. I mean, Superman is male and Supergirl is female, and that's about where their differences should end though, I imagine. Also, if they're like humans, I mean, females tend to live longer than males, so she might even be more immortal. Number 4, Dream. The Dream we know via the Netflix Sandman series and the comic it is based off of is known by the name of Morpheus, but he is not the only iteration of the character to exist. Currently, in the Sandman universe, there is another who is Dream. This is a different incarnation of the character though. While Dream can be killed and defeated, the concept of Dream cannot. And so if ever Dream does fall, there will be a new incarnation that will appear to take his place. That's honestly true immortality. The reason why I'm ranking Dream a little lower though is because he's not your typical hero. In fact, some may not even consider him to be one at all, and may in the comments already be arguing with me about this point. But I would argue that in his way, along his journey in the comics, Dream does ultimately become a hero. A reluctant one, but he does. Lord Morpheus is often not thought of as being one of the most powerful members of the Endless, as he is the ruler of the non-tangible realm of dreams and nightmares. But that being said, his brother Destruction did once imply that the two sides of the coin that make up Dream are both the concepts of the surreal fantasy worlds of dreams and reality itself. Like how destruction represents both destruction and creation, and death embodies both death and life, as one cannot exist without the other to help shape and define it. Number 3, Superman. One of the most powerful heroes out there is Superman, who has been established as immortal as long as he's under a yellow sun. So his immortality is a little bit conditional, which is why I'm ranking him a touch lower here. But when it comes to him being a powerhouse, Superman is undisputably one of the best heroes that we have. I mean, DC kind of had to cement his powers and give him weaknesses to make his struggles more grounded. That's how unstoppable he was initially. We had to give him weaknesses. He didn't have enough. Back when his superpowers were basically whatever he needed them to be in order to save the day and overcome the challenges that he faced. It was like, what does Superman need for this adventure? He's got that power. Number 2, Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is a superhero that, yes, can be killed, but she has also been known as a demigod in the comics before, with one origin for the character establishing her as the daughter of Hippolyta, the queen of the Amazons, and Zeus, a god of Olympus. This feels pretty sacrilegious to me given the histories of the Amazons as explained in DC Black Label's Historia, but I digress. During the events of Dark Knight's death metal, Diana was also raised up to become an omnipotent god amidst the stars, transcending into an otherworldly being and leaving our earthly plane behind. At least for a little while. Diana would also, during this time, get a glimpse into a potential future that we'd come to know as Future State. Although ultimately this future would not come to pass. At least, not exactly. Wonder Woman is known for being one of the fiercest and strongest fighters amongst the Amazons and in the world of DC, and part of that is thanks to her connection to the gods and her immortality as a result. Wonder Woman is known for being one of the fiercest and strongest fighters amongst the Amazons and in the world of DC, and part of that is thanks to her connection to the gods and her immortality as a result. Number 1, Immortal Man. I mean, it's literally in the name, right? We have to include Klarn here. Honestly, I started out this list really having to rack my brain for some immortal heroes that I wanted to include. But now that I'm nearing the end of the list, I'm finding there are actually so many I could have included that I didn't, and I'm questioning all my choices, but at least I got this one. Hopefully we get a part 2, that's all I'm saying. I'm glad I didn't overlook Immortal Man though, and I decided to include him here at least. Immortal Man is the rival of one of the most famous immortal villains from DC Comics, Vandal Savage. In fact, Klarn Arg, as he is known, is actually from the same prehistoric era as Vandal in the New Earth continuity. Immortal Man isn't immortal in the same way as some other heroes listed here. Instead of having an immortal body and mind, he simply has an immortal spirit, being reincarnated each time his physical body perishes, allowing him to pursue and combat against Vandal Savage throughout the ages.
Coming in at number 10 today is Mr. Immortal. What better way to start off a list of immortal heroes? Mr. Immortal possesses the ability to automatically resurrect and heal from any fatality that he ever suffers. The resurrection usually occurs immediately, and it appears that it stopped him from aging completely. He has recovered from being blasted, squished, losing air to his lungs, being crushed, blown up, infected, losing his head, blasted by radiation, and incinerated. The Death Urge, who Mr. Immortal grew up with, has stated that Mr. Immortal is fated to be alive to see the end of the universe, eventually being the sole survivor of the universe. Then, at the end, he would learn the quote, grand secret that will reveal itself at the end of all things. It's later revealed that this grand secret is merging with the sentience of the cosmos, surviving beyond the end of time, and moving on into the next iteration of everything, just like Galactus does. Franklin Richards is also said to have this same destiny, but according to the one below all, Franklin is the quote appointed prince, and Mr. Mortal is merely Franklin's backup, just in case Franklin happens to pass away. Number 9. The Eternals. Way back in the day, the Celestials came to Earth when proto-humans began to emerge, meaning around 2 to 5 million years ago. That's a long frickin' time. The Celestial first host performed genetic experiments on those early humans, resulting in 3 groups: the Immortal and Superior Eternals, the pretty grotesque and monstrous Deviants, and just plain Jane regular humans like you and me. The Eternals, aka Homo Immortalis, were basically created to defend the planet Earth, specifically from the Deviants, and to serve the Celestials. They became somewhat silent defenders of Homo sapiens, secluding themselves and rarely directly engaging with us. They built super impressive cities like Olympia, Titanos, Oceania, and Polaria, and their names have become intertwined with heroes throughout ancient history, and they are all immortal, being reborn if they ever actually bite the dust, hence the Homo Immortalis name. An average Eternal is intertwined with cosmic energy and can lift about 15 tons without using any form of telekinesis, but a few are able to lift up to 100 tons. Other Eternals specialize in different powers like telepathy and telekinesis, and all Eternals have the ability to join with one another to form the Unimind, made of light, mind, and just pure energy. Number 8. Nightcrawler. Kurt Wagner was first introduced in Giant-Sized X-Men #1 in April 1975 with the mutant ability to biophysically displace himself into the Brimstone dimension, travel through it with a subconscious sense, and then return back to our dimension in a different location. Essentially, teleporting. Now this all happens so fast it's almost instant, and it's always accompanied by the signature BAMF sound. Through his unique physiology, he gains a few extra abilities as well, like a prehensile tail, microsuction hands and feet, flexible bone structure, and he can also camouflage himself, bending light using the Brimstone dimension. But what a few might not know is that he is actually immortal, thanks to the fact that he sacrificed his soul in heaven to come back to life. This means he cannot be taken out by any natural means, and if he was taken out by anything else, the mutant resurrection protocols got him covered too, which is good because I never want to lose this legendary blue mutant. Number 7. The Thing. Ben Grimm's first year roommate in university just happened to be this brilliant young scientist by the name of Reed Richards. These two became best friends. After the two graduated, Ben joined the Air Force, becoming a pilot and an astronaut. Now, helping out his buddy Reed with a prototype spaceship, Ben volunteered as its pilot. And alongside Reed, Susan Storm and her brother Johnny Storm, the four were bombarded with radiation and they all gained superpowers. Of all of them though, Ben drew the short end of the stick, with his skin becoming orange and rocky, turning him into an extremely durable and extremely strong, monstrous thing. On the other hand though, Ben was now the only member of the Fantastic Four who gained immortality, being unable to age at all. Eventually, thanks to Johnny Storm, the Thing did get the ability to return back to his human form, but only once a year. This is the only time that he actually ages, and it's only by 1 day every year. If he chooses not to become human that year, then he does not age 1 day. Basically, the Thing will live for a very long time, if not just forever. Number 6. The Hulk. The gamma-powered green Goliath known as the Hulk has been around for a long time, and ever since he showed up, there are only a small handful of people who have ever been able to stop him without using some kind of magic or reality warping. His infinite strength has a lot to do with that, a strength that grows based on his anger and has never ever really reached a cap, allowing him to destroy entire planets, be a threat to the entire galaxies, and being able to shake the entire multiverse with his punches. It also has a lot to do with his basically limitless dynamic durability, which has allowed him to survive attacks from enchanted weapons, powerful blasts of energy, stronger than Ground Zero nuclear explosions, the Human Torch's Nova Blast, and he could stand up to forces that could crush adamantium and destroy entire planets. We already knew that the Hulk persona would come out to stop Bruce Banner from ever passing on, and that the Hulk himself is practically unable to be damaged and heals very quickly if he is, but now, thanks to Immortal Hulk, we know that the Hulk actually, literally, cannot cease to live, coming back from the below place through green doors anytime he does happen to just bite the dust, which is never. Number 5. Ares. As the son of both Zeus and Hera, Ares is the Olympian god of war. Now, unlike a lot of others on this list, Ares has acted as a villain from time to time, which you would expect from a god of war. He's tried to conquer Olympus several times, usually being stopped by his half-brother, who we will talk about in just a moment. Now, growing tired of Zeus's rule, Ares retired from his position in Olympus and made his way to Earth to raise his son Alexander, aka Phobos, who is also immortal. His first real heroic Marvel moment came when he returned to Olympus to face Amatsu Mikobashi, the Chaos King. Since then, he has actually joined up as one of Iron Man's Avengers, even staying on the team when Norman Osborn took over. Eventually though, he kind of passed away at the hands of the Sentry, who ripped him in half, but he just went straight to Elysium, only to return as a fighter in the Contest of Champions, and after that, he went back to Earth and became one of the champions of Europe. Somehow though, he was taken out by the Punisher fairly recently, but he will probably absolutely return, as he is a god. Number 4. Hercules. Hercules is the son of Zeus, Skyfather and supreme ruler of the gods of Olympus, and Alcmena, a mortal woman who lived over 3,000 years ago. Athena, the goddess of wisdom, arranged for her father Zeus to have a half-mortal son to be the world's champion. Zeus seduced Queen Alcmena, pretending to be her husband, King Amphitryon, and Alcmena gave birth to baby Hercules. Now, as an adult demigod in ancient Greece, Hercules achieved worldwide fame, best known for his 12 labors. As the Olympian god of strength, Hercules' strength is unlimited, making him one of the strongest and most powerful heroes in the Marvel Universe. As an infant, he was breastfed by his stepmother, Hera, queen of the Olympian gods, which increased his already demigod physiology to godlike levels. Hercules possesses the superhuman physical attributes of an Olympian god, but interestingly, some of his powers are superior to the vast majority of his race. But like all of them, he's immortal. Number 3. Snowbird. Narya's origins trace back to ancient times when the Inuit gods of the north battled the mystical great beasts for the fate of the world. Ultimately, both parties were exiled from Earth, and as such, the Inuit gods sought to create an agent to prevent the beast's return. To that end, Nelvana, goddess of the northern lights, mated with a human. With the midwifery assistance of Sarsi mystic Michael Two Young Men, Nelvana gave birth to a daughter, Narya. Two young men bound the infant to the lands of Canada, allowing her to assume human form. However, she would weaken if she left Canada's borders. Two young men raised the rapidly maturing Narya as his own daughter, and both were soon recruited into Alpha Flight as Shaman and Snowbird. And Snowbird, being a god, like Hercules, is immortal. Number 2. Monkey King. A crime lord self-styled himself as a modern-day, quote, Monkey King. He was tricked by a rival into attempting to steal the original Monkey King's staff. Now, in the cave where the staff was held, he encountered the spirit of the original Monkey King, Sung Wukong, who, impressed by his audacity, let him take the staff and at least some of the original's power on the condition that he would be judged. If he was good, he would be allowed to go free, but if his heart was weighed down by evil, he would be cast down into the 8th city of hell. Now, being a crime lord, he was judged evil. He was cast down where he was trapped for years and years and years until one of the hammers of the worthy that was created during the original sin created a hole that allowed many demons, including himself, to escape. Having seen the error of his ways, he now dedicated himself to trying to atone for his past deeds and hunting down any other demons that also escaped alongside him, with the powers of immortality. Number 1. Deadpool. With powers originating from Wolverine's genetic mutation, only stronger, Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, is a product of the Weapon X program, making him not only pretty difficult to take down, but also pretty difficult to defend against. But through his time, he's managed to become even more capable. At one point in the comics, Deadpool becomes infatuated with death, as in Mistress Death. This is the same Death that the Mad Titan Thanos is also in love with. Now, because of this little weird love triangle and Thanos being a big grumpy jealous boy, he decides to quote gift old Wade Wilson with immortality, meaning preventing him from ever being able to fully be with death. In reality, he just vowed to return Deadpool to life no matter what it took if he ever managed to actually pass away. Coming from Thanos, that's pretty much the same as immortality, because Thanos is Thanos and he will do whatever he wants to do. But even without that, Deadpool's healing factor renders him basically immortal as he no longer ages, can live and control his body without his head attached, is highly resistant to foreign chemicals, immune to all diseases, telepathic attacks, and possessions. He's a master assassin and has the power of breaking the fourth wall, which in a way gives him almost godhood-like abilities in comic books.
Number 10. Gwenpool. Gwenpool most recently underwent a retcon to transform her into a mutant, although it is handled in such a way that her original origin still stands as well. It makes sense if you read it. Gwen has meta abilities now. They've been retconned to reality warping abilities. However, prior to this, she was able to slide into the white space, and it pretty effectively kept her from harm. Her very position as originating outside of the 616 or any Marvel universe, but instead in the real world, seemed to grant her an invulnerability to harm, not afforded to other characters. One will have to wait and see what the future holds for Gwen now that she is a resident of Krakoa. Are you a fan of this mutant retcon? Let us know. So, how is she weak? Well, she's just an average girl with no training. Get her in a fight without her advantages and well, it would be over pretty quickly. Number 9. Painkiller Jane. Painkiller Jane is Jane Vasco, created in 1996. After being resurrected after a bomb planted inside her body detonates, she is transformed into a superhuman with regenerative powers. And so began, or I guess continued, her action-packed life. Painkiller Jane is described as virtually indestructible, and she can heal minor injuries in seconds. But she can still be hurt. Extremely regenerative is not non-vulnerable. She can take a lot of punishment but not avoid it. She also doesn't have any special offensive abilities either, just that she's hard to take out. Pretty much impossible. Her name comes from that fact. Lots of pain. Number 8. Resurrection Man. This character first appeared in Resurrection Man number 1 back in 1997. His name is Mitchell Shelley, but he goes by Mitch. He has the ability to revive himself, or rather it just kind of happens to him, but he can still die and stays dead for a small period of time. We've got crawling out of grave things happening. He gained his powers after being unwittingly experimented upon with nanotechnology. He lost his memory for several months as well, but that was far less of an impact than becoming immortal. So when he dies, he is resurrected and has powers influenced by the manner/superpower he was killed by. So he goes on a quest for his memories and to see how his powers work. So he becomes more dangerous every time he dies, in theory. But well, before that, he was just a guy who died. And depending on how he resurrects, he's not much to deal with either. So Resurrection Man, he can die a lot, but not permanently. Number 7, Dead Man. Reach with me, get your exercise in. Now you may be saying, Dead Man is already dead. Boston Brand bit the dust. Yes he did. And that means he cannot die again. He possesses bodies to be able to talk to others. And that means he can't normally impact the physical plane too much either. So he's very limited in his abilities, and that can make him weak. It can also make him terrifying, you know, hopping from body to body, coming for you. But yeah, when you're dead, you're dead. Definitely limits your options. I mean, I assume. I wouldn't know. So can't die, cause already dead. There's a definite. Number 6, Mr. Immortal. Well, it's all in the name, isn't it? It's right there. Mr. Immortal debuted in West Coast Avengers number 46 in 1989. His mother died shortly after birth, and when she died, she asked an entity known as Death Urge or Dirge to look after her son, Craig Hollis. This would manifest as the entity making it so that Craig could not die, even though he wanted to. In fact, he figured this out after a suicide attempt. He would eventually decide to use this ability to fight crime. But other than that, he doesn't have any abilities. He's not super strong, super fast, or anything. He just can't die. And he uses this to his advantage psychologically, like allowing himself to be killed and then coming back to taunt his enemies. I mean, that's messed up. It creates an interesting dynamic, and he has a very unique relationship with death and the beyond as a result. Number 5, Lobo. That's right, the main man himself. He debuted in Omega Men number 3 in 1983. So Lobo has been banned from entering heaven or hell, and is as a result essentially immortal. He also has a crazy healing factor to boot. He's not impossible to take out, but he's tougher than most on this list, so why is he here? Well, he's only unkillable because he was banned from hell after he was sent there and he proved too much for the demons. So if Lobo ever softens up for some reason, he may find himself dead. His immortality is tenuous at best, and that makes him weak. He has to maintain his extra macho attitude at all times. Not that he would say that was a problem. He seems to enjoy it. Number 4, Bruce Banner. That's right, not the Hulk, Bruce Banner. Yes, Bruce Banner is a hero. He helps out with his scientific mind and by keeping the Hulk in check. However, at the time of this recording, Bruce Banner cannot die. If he does, he is resurrected by the Hulk. But Banner can be and has been killed, quite brutally, only to be dragged away from eternal rest by his larger, greener counterpart. Whether Banner and the Hulk are one and the same, a fractured personality, or literally different people now inhabiting the same body, either way, the Hulk is far stronger than Bruce Banner, and the fact that he can't die means he's bringing Bruce along for the ride. Number 3, Franklin Richards. Franklin Richards is an Omega-level mutant, whose father Reed shot him with a coma gun. This was to try and find a way to suppress his abilities because they were getting out of control. Franklin was creating pocket universes without even fully having the ability to comprehend what he was doing. His reality warping powers are off the scale. He has been shown to be one of the beings who will be present at the end of the universe as a whole. It's pretty chilling stuff. Yet, outside of that, he is just a child. Well, a teen now. He's been aged up a bit at the time of this recording. He calls himself Powerhouse, which is very accurate for a teenage superhero name. He was going through a whole every time I use my powers I get weaker thing, but how that works with the new Dawn of X continuity we'll see, because there's a whole shakeup coming. This is because the X-Men want to separate him from his loving family because of his genetics. I mean, hooray, mutant bread. Number 2, Deadpool. Deadpool is known for his healing ability. He can survive anything, either by the curse of immortality or just because of the absurd effectiveness of said healing factor. He may be essentially immortal, but he's not unkillable. Deadpool dies a decent amount. He gets maimed a lot too. Not that he minds too much, because it means that he can spend some time with his lady love, Death. He is, however, not hard to kill. You can take him out, and you can do this any way you want. The reason people have a hard time is because he's really skilled and unpredictable because of all his years of murking. That's why it doesn't happen too often. I mean, who doesn't want to be good at what they do? Aside from Deadshot, but this isn't about him. Deadpool is taken out in some gory and memorable ways, but he always comes back. The body may be weak, but the healing factor is strong. And in at number 1, Groot. Groot has a lot of skills, yes. I would not want to fight a giant sentient tree. No one would, or should. But at the same time, trees have many weaknesses, like fires and axes. There are so many ways you can take out Groot, but he will regrow, stronger than before, and wiser. Groot has seemingly died on many occasions, but each time only a sprig remained, and it was enough for Groot to return. And of course, the MCU gave us the adorableness that was dancing baby Groot. And who can resist that? People with hearts of stone. That's who.